Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Kaufman. Welcome to our 102nd video on the Torah portion of the week. We're holding by Parshas Noach. I'm actually doing a new thing right now. Usually I make the video and then I put it up on YouTube and I share it on Facebook. Now I'm going to try and do it on Facebook. Anyone who's around wants to listen to it certainly can. So try new things, see how it goes. Anyway, we're holding by Parshas Noach, second Parsha in the book of Genesis. Speaks about Noach and how righteous he was. Speaks about the flood. That's really what the whole Parsha is about, the fact that God destroys the world, etc. I want to talk, I think, about an interesting topic that I don't think most people have certainly have a handle on. And we'll see, as we go. The Torah says here in the Parsha, Genesis chapter 7, verse 2. Well, verse 1, it says, Hashem said to Noah, come to the ark in all your household, for it is you that I have seen to be righteous before me in this generation. Then it says, verse 2, our verse, it says, of every clean animal, take unto you 7 pairs, a male with its mate, and all of the animal that is not clean, 2 of a male with its mate, etc. Of all the birds of the heaven, also 7 pairs, male and female, keep the seed alive, face of all the earth. So God wants all the animals to be alive, and to survive, their species to survive. Anyway, here in verse 2, it's very interesting. Very interesting. Rashi here points out, Rashi says that we learn over here that when it says that Noach is going to bring these animals in, he's going to bring these pure animals in, right, 2 by 2. He says that we understand that Noach learned Torah, right? That is what Rashi here learns. Now, this is going to be probably ruffle some feathers, so everyone is going to listen to this. You better bat down the hatchet, as they say. There's a problem. Right? The Talmud says explicitly a non-Jew is not allowed to learn Torah. Right? If a non-Jew is not allowed to learn Torah, then how can Rashi say over here that he learned Torah? It should be forbidden. Right? A non-Jew is not allowed to learn Torah. So the question would be also, if a non-Jew wants to learn for conversion, right? There are plenty of things within Torah they have to know. Right? They have to know how to make blessings. They have to know how to pray. They have to know how to keep the laws of Shabbos, how to keep festivals, all these different things, right? So obviously they have to learn Torah. They certainly have to learn Torah as well. So if they have to learn Torah, right, we just said, according to Rashi, you're not allowed to learn Torah. So says Mori Varebi, Arav Agon, Ramosh Stormach Shlita, should be well, brings down in Chochmah Vadas, that a non-Jew to learn Torah, when's it forbidden? When's it forbidden? When they learn in depth. If they're learning totally in depth, right, that's going to be a problem. But if they want to learn the essence of the laws, right, in other words, they want to learn, what to do and what's permissible, what's not permissible, they're allowed to learn, right? Certainly written Torah, that no one has an issue with. They want to learn written Torah, that's fine. Just delving into the commentaries and what it means and all that, certainly should be forbidden. We'll go into further detail about this. And the question is, another question is that the Talmud says that Hillel learned Torah to a non-Jew, right? He taught him Torah. So if here you say that Noach learned Torah, and really it's forbidden, so the Talmud says, how could Hillel have taught a non-Jew? How could he taught him Torah? So Rebbe points out, if he wants to convert, he's allowed to, right? He's definitely allowed to learn Torah if he wants to convert. Now, again, it means that he has to learn what it means to be a Jew. So some hold that even to teach a non-Jew for what he needs to do, you shouldn't teach him that much. Right? You really shouldn't teach him that much. Just teach him the basics. Well, the problem is, if you would teach him the basics today, he never passed any rabbinical court. Right? He never converts. Game over. right? Doesn't, the rabbinical court wants to see how much they know, right? How much they know, where their knowledge base is. They know about the holidays, they know about blessings, they know about kashrus. They want to see basically what they know. It doesn't mean they have to know everything, right? But according to this later commentary, you can only teach them very few things, right? If you can only teach them very few things, they'll fail. In today's modern age, they'll fail. It's game over, right? So it has to be understood, and I think that a lot of things have been really taken out of context, and a lot of people don't really understand. First of all, what's the problem? What's the problem with the non-Jew, learning Torah? And the bigger question is how much Torah is he allowed to learn? That's really the big question. Because if a non-Jew doesn't want to convert, right, or he's not interested in converting to Judaism, but he wants to learn, at the very least, he wants to know what he's allowed to do. So learning what he's allowed to do in the Noahide laws, that he's allowed to do. I mean, how far, how in depth, how far do we take it? Okay, that's a question, right? That's definitely a question. So let's backtrack, right? We understand that Noach learned Torah. So the question is, how's he allowed to learn Torah? So if you look at the question, the Talmud says also, non-Jews not allowed to keep Shabbos. If he keeps Shabbos, we'll clarify, if he keeps Shabbos like a Jew, he's liable for a death penalty. So a non-Jew who wants to convert, he's certainly allowed to keep Shabbos, but he has to do something on purpose to break it. In other words, to show he's not keeping it like a Jew. Now again, what's the problem? What in the world's the problem? What do we're against non-Jews, they get spiritual cooties, different things. What should be the issue? So it seems like this, that, at one point in time, any non-Jew wanted to partake in the Torah, they were allowed to. Says the Ramchal, Ramoshe Chaim Lutzato, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, may his name be blessed. He wrote in his epic work, Derech Hashem, the Way of God, very deep Kabbalistic book, but it's all about why God created the world, the purpose of man, angels, spiritual forces, how they work. I happened to give a class on this once a week. A fascinating book. In any case, he brings down that at a certain point, when Abraham came on the scene, everybody could have joined him. Anybody who wanted to join certainly could have joined. Once the Torah is given, it's too late. They're not allowed to join. In other words, at that point, they wouldn't have had to go under any other process. Now the fact that God gave the Torah, so now it's been closed, right? In other words, a non-Jew who wants to be part of the Jewish people, they have to go through this process called conversion. Whether they like it, whether they don't like it, they rejected the Torah. God, there's a medrash, the Talmud says clear, God goes to all the nations ask what's written in the Torah, and each nation, when they hear what's written in the Torah, they say they're not interested. Goes to Esav, goes to the Western world, or Esav represents the Western world. He asks Esav, you want to know what's written in the Torah? So he said, sure. So what does God tell him? It says, don't kill, right? But by Esav, it says, I'm going to live by the sword. If the Torah says I have to live by the sword, what do you mean? I make my living by killing. Next, Esav's not interested. Goes to Yishmael, goes to the Arabs. He says, you want the Torah? He says, what's written in it? He said, don't steal. He says, don't steal. He says, the Torah says, my hand is in the hand of everyone, and everyone's in my hand. So that's what I do for a living, right? That's my nature. Not interested. Goes to all the other nations. No nation's interested. Comes to Jewish people, and he says, Jewish people, you want the Torah? They said, sure. You want to know what's written in it? They said, Na'aseh v'nishma. They said, we will hear, and then we will do, right? So they didn't care what was written in the Torah. So at that point, once God gives them the Torah, anybody who wants to tap in, they're allowed to tap in. They have to go through conversion, meaning if they want to be part of the Jewish people, they still can. It's not my way, the highway. Either you believe in us, you're going to fry in hell forever, right? A non-Jew could have a portion in Torah without conversion. They don't need to convert. They can learn the Noahide laws. There's plenty what to learn, within the Noahide laws as well. So they're not interested. They don't have to be interested in converting. If you want to convert, okay, you have an opportunity. But there are certain things you have to do, right? There are obligations, right? Just like in any, if a person wants to be a Muslim, you don't just jump in and be a Muslim. There's certain things you have to take on. Be a Christian, no different. Well, actually, being a Christian might be easier. Just believe in JC and everything's good. Sprinkle a little water and so, that's it. No problem. In any case, the Jews accepted the Torah. No other nation wanted the Torah. So now comes the Talmud. It says, a non-Jew that learns Torah is liable for a death penalty. A non-Jew who keeps Shabbos, now let's clarify, keeps Shabbos like a Jew is liable for a death penalty. So I had a student that once told me, says, God doesn't want me to break the Sabbath. I want to convert. God's not interested I should break the Sabbath. I'm like, what are you talking about? The Talmud says clear. You're not allowed to. So the person kept telling me, no, but that's not what God wants. God's not interested I should do that. So I said, well, what do you think it means? Why would a non-Jew, why would the Talmud say a non-Jew is liable for a death penalty? We hate non-Jews? I mean, there may be many statements that the Talmud, may make seemingly against non-Jews. It just means that when people look at it at face value, they don't understand what it means, right? There is what is behind what is said. It's not just, oh, we hate non-Jews, we're going to knock them off. There are plenty of things, the laundry list of things that are said in the Talmud that, kind of make us look bad in what, and how we look at non-Jews. That could be, right? But everything, as I'm always fond of saying, is context, right? You have to see what the context is. Anyway, I'm digressing. Point is, as I mentioned to this person, the non-Jews rejected the Torah. They weren't interested in the Torah. So all of a sudden now, generations later, a person's going to come along and say, you know what? I've had it with Christianity. I've had it with Hinduism. I've had it with these other idolatrous religions, whatever they may be. I want Torah. I've come to the conclusion the Torah is true. So now that you've come to the conclusion the Torah is true, so a Jew would turn around and say, too bad. It's off limits. You can't learn it. You had an opportunity. Your great-great-great-great-grandparents rejected it, and that's it. You shouldn't be allowed to. So the person came back to me and said, if I would have been there, if I would have been in my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents' generation, I wouldn't have rejected Torah. I said, that's great, but we don't care about you. No offense, right? We have no interest in what you would have done. The bottom line is the Jews accepted the Torah, no one else did. So if the Jews accepted the Torah, all of a sudden, people want to say, I have a right. A non-Jew comes along, I can do what I want. The Torah is mine. Think again. People make the mistake. They say, the end of Genesis chapter 1, right? We finished last week's Parsha. The end of chapter 1, what do we have? The end of chapter 1, we have the creation of Shabbos, right? Or the beginning, sorry, let's see, 1 second. The end of chapter 1, the beginning of chapter 2, it says heaven and earth were finished in all their array, and on the seventh day God completed his work, etc. So someone said, look, God created Shabbos for the entire world. Okay, now I got a problem with that statement. You go to Exodus chapter 20, right? Exodus chapter 20, right? 10 Commandments. You get to the 10 Commandments, what does it say? Its first 10 Commandments says, God says, I am the Lord your God, took you out of Egypt, etc., etc. And in verse 8 it says, remember the Sabbath day, sanctify it. 6 days shall you work, complete your work. You accomplish all your work. 7th day is the Sabbath to Hashem your God, shouldn't do any work, blah, blah, blah. All right, so accordingly, who is Shabbos given to? It's given to the Jews, right? Let's make clear. Exodus chapter 20. God reveals himself to the Jewish people and tells them, these are the commandments I want you to keep. So the whole question, how many of the commandments, how many of the 10 commandments were they actually alive when they heard them? Some say the first 2, and then they died. It was too great of an experience. And then they told Moshe, you hear the rest. Some of the other commentaries say it's not like that. Some of the other commentaries say, you know what? It's They heard all of the 10 commandments. Whatever, it's a disagreement of opinion. But the point is, from Exodus chapter 20, you get a full proof that Shabbos is not given to the rest of the world. Sorry, it's given specifically to the Jewish people. So back to Genesis chapter 1, sorry, the beginning of chapter 2, where God says, I rested on the Sabbath day, etc. It means He created it. It didn't say He gave it to. He just put it in the world. Right? He put it in the world. No one came and claimed it. No one said, oh, it's for me. We don't see that anywhere in the text. There's nowhere. In the Medrash, Talmud says, all the nations come along and say, I want a part, and He'll give you a right. There's no acquisition over here. Comes Exodus chapter 20. Anyone who wanted to join the Jewish people up until this point, or even before, seemingly the Ramchal says way before, but even up till before the Torah was given, a non-Jew could have been part of it. If he wasn't part of it, that's it. What are you telling me? I can do what I want. I want a part in it. I want to be just like a Jew. So be a Jew. You want to be a Jew? Be a Jew. You don't want to be a Jew? Why should it be a part of you? Why should you have any interest? Or why should you be allowed to do it? You rejected God. You rejected the Torah. You want to be part of it? Okay. Anybody can join. You can be part of the Jewish people. You can go through conversion. Remember, you have to go through a process to do it. Right? It has to be done under certain parameters. You can't come along and say, oh, I'm just going to be a Jew and do what I want. We got enough mediocre Jews in the world. Trust me. We don't need more. Either you're going to do it right or don't bother. You cannot turn the Torah, as I'm fond of saying, and I'm going to patent this because anyone does, I'm going to sue you, and that is that the Torah is not a pretzel. You cannot turn the Torah into a pretzel and do whatever you want. That's just not the way it works. So in this case, so this non-Jew tells me, had I been there, I wouldn't have rejected the Torah. At the end of the day, we don't care. The fact that the non-Jews didn't accept the Torah, what gives you the right to say, I want to keep the Sabbath? So the answer is, and the reality is, that a non-Jew can learn Torah. And a non-Jew can keep the Shabbos up to a point. Right? Learning Torah over here based on what they need to know. Right? By the 7 laws. Now, there are much more than 7 laws. Right? There are definitely much more than 7 laws. So they're allowed to delve into it, not so much. They have to know what they have to do. Right? Obviously, they need somebody that's going to teach them what they need to do. But in general, they're allowed to learn. So Torah shebichsav, what we call the written Torah. So a non-Jew can learn. There's plenty what to learn. Plenty what to learn there, in the prophets, in the writings. There's a ton over here to learn. The thing is, when it comes to learning more in depth, you want to go through the Midrashim, and you want to learn Talmud, and you want to learn other things. All right, you're not a Jew, right? Delving in depth, right, is going to be forbidden. Now, for a non-Jew who wants to convert, what's the difference, right? Why should we say? I mean, they're not allowed to learn everything at once either, right? They have to learn what they need for the sake of conversion. So if someone wants to convert, you have to learn about the laws of Shabbos, about the laws of festivals. You have to learn, the laws of kashrus, blessings, 13 principles of faith. There are a lot of things. That a person, that a non-Jew, has to learn. Now, there's a more complicated question. Let's say, for instance, I give conversion classes, which I do, right? So someone comes and they prove they're the real deal. They want to go through these classes. What happens if they don't end up converting? All right, this is a question that was posed to me by someone much greater than me, and said, if someone doesn't end up converting, because what I do isn't necessarily what a lot of people would necessarily agree in, because I don't meet most of the people. I do a lot of this, online, but I do have a good track record, 100%. No one's ever been rejected by a rabbinical court. No one's gone sour afterwards. So regardless of that, someone took me to task and said, how can you do such a thing? If someone doesn't end up converting, you may be over Torah prohibition of teaching the non-Jew Torah. Legitimate question. So my answer was, let's say someone's interested in learning, they want to convert, they don't live in a Jewish community, right? So this is also a little more controversial. People will say, if they don't live in Jewish community, well, they're not serious. Well, that may not be true. They may be serious, they just can't move. They can't, they have job issues, some other issues, even though the goal has to be that they have to move. So a lot of people I deal with, even though they can't move now, that is, they are sincere. It doesn't mean they're not sincere, but no rabbinical court will look at them, for that reason, because they don't live amongst Jews. That I understand. So what do we do? Just say, okay, find yourself on the internet. Good luck. Have a nice day. So I answered that better they get proper, proper guidance in what they need to do. Eventually they're going to get there. So I asked another question. Whatever. This rabbi didn't like this answer. So I said, let me ask you like this: you take somebody lives in a Jewish community, right? He lives in a Jewish community. There's no rabbinical court in the Jewish community. So he goes to another community in order to convert. Goes to his rabbinical court, and starts the rabbinic court process. Now, let's say, for argument's sake, less than 20% of people that start the conversion process actually finish. Right? It's a very small percentage, and there are a million reasons why someone may not end up converting. So I said, somebody who's accepted by your rabbinical court or by any rabbinical court,